What if I told you that the deepest form of power you possess is not in your words, not in your actions, not in your ability to chase or convince or demand, but in your capacity to step back, to become still, to let the noise fall away, and simply watch what unfolds when you stop trying to control the outcome? There are people who have learned, often through great pain, that silence is not absence. It is presence of a different kind. It is the kind of presence that does not announce itself, that does not beg for attention, that does not collapse under the weight of uncertainty. It is the presence that holds space without grasping, that allows the other to move freely, and in that freedom, to remember what they left behind. You may have been told that love requires effort, that relationships demand constant communication, that if you are not speaking, not reaching out, not making yourself visible, then you are failing. You may have been taught that silence equals abandonment, that withdrawal is cruelty, that to step back is to give up. But what if that is not true? What if silence, the right kind of silence, the kind that comes not from fear or manipulation, but from deep self-respect and trust in the natural rhythms of human connection, is actually the most honest thing you can offer? What if staying silent is not about playing games, but about refusing to participate in the chaos of desperation, the exhausting dance of convincing someone to see your worth? Carl Jung spoke often about the inner world, about the vast landscape that exists beneath the surface of our daily interactions. He understood that not everyone lives primarily in the external realm of constant activity and noise. Some people, perhaps you are one of them, live with one foot in the visible world and the other in the depths of their own psyche, where symbols and emotions and unspoken truths move like currents beneath still water. Jung called this orientation introversion, but it is more than just a preference for solitude. It is a way of processing reality, a way of drawing energy not from the outer world, but from the inner one, from reflection, from silence, from the act of witnessing rather than always performing. When you choose to stay silent and watch him come back, you are not being passive. You are not being weak. You are making a profound statement about your own value and about the nature of authentic connection. You are saying, without words, that you will not beg. You will not diminish yourself. You will not twist yourself into shapes that do not fit your soul just to keep someone's attention. You are saying that if he is meant to return, if the connection is real, if there is something genuine beneath the surface tension and the confusion and the fear, then it will reveal itself not through your pursuit, but through his recognition of what he has lost. This is not easy. It requires you to sit with uncertainty, to tolerate the discomfort of not knowing, to resist the urge to fill the silence with explanations or apologies or attempts to fix what may not be yours to fix. It requires you to trust that your worth is not contingent on his immediate response, that your value does not fluctuate based on whether he texts back or calls or shows up. It requires a kind of inner strength that our culture rarely acknowledges, because our culture worships action, visibility, the appearance of control. But perhaps you have always known that real strength is often quiet. It does not shout. It does not demand. It simply is. You might feel afraid. That is natural. The fear whispers that if you do not reach out, if you do not remind him of your existence, he will forget you. He will move on. He will find someone else, someone louder, someone more available, someone who does not require him to think or reflect or come to his own conclusions. The fear tells you that silence is a risk you cannot afford, that you must stay visible, stay relevant, stay in his awareness at all costs. But what the fear does not tell you is that this kind of constant effort, this relentless pursuit, often has the opposite effect. It pushes, it crowds, it removes the space that allows genuine desire to emerge. Jung also spoke about the persona, the mask we wear in the world, the version of ourselves we present to meet social expectations and to navigate relationships. Sometimes, in our desperation to be loved, to be chosen, to be seen, we over-identify with the persona. We become so focused on how we appear, on what we say, on managing the other person's perception of us, that we lose touch with the deeper self beneath the mask. We forget that real connection does not happen between two personas. It happens between two souls, two authentic beings who are willing to show up without pretense, without performance, without the exhausting labor of constantly trying to be enough. When you stay silent, you are giving yourself permission to step out of the persona, to stop performing, to stop managing his feelings or his perception. You are allowing yourself to simply be in your fullness, in your complexity, in your quiet dignity. And in that space, something shifts. The dynamic changes. You are no longer the one chasing. You are no longer the one trying to convince him of your value. You are simply present in your own life, attending to your own inner world, trusting that if he is capable of recognizing what you offer, he will come back. And if he does not, then you have learned something essential about him, about the relationship, about what is possible between you. This is not manipulation. It is not a strategy designed to make him jealous or to punish him for pulling away. It is something far more honest. It is a refusal to abandon yourself in the process of trying to hold on to someone else. It is a recognition that your energy, your attention, your emotional labor are precious, and that you will not spend them trying to force someone to stay who has chosen to leave. It is a deep bow to your own worth, a quiet affirmation that you deserve someone who comes to you willingly, not someone you have to trap or convince or exhaust yourself pursuing. There are people who will not understand this. They will tell you to fight for what you want. They will tell you that love requires effort, that you should not give up, that silence is cold or cruel or passive-aggressive. They will project their own fears and their own patterns onto your choice because they cannot imagine a different way. They live in a world where love is a battle, where connection is a game of strategy and leverage, where vulnerability is weakness and silence is defeat. But you do not have to live in that world. You can choose a different path, one that honors your depth, your sensitivity, your need for authenticity over performance. You may have noticed that you tire easily of superficial interactions, of conversations that skim the surface, of relationships that demand you to be someone you are not. You may have felt, for much of your life, that you are different, that you do not fit neatly into the social scripts that others seem to follow effortlessly. You may have been called too intense, too serious, too quiet, too much or not enough in ways that never quite made sense. This is because you live primarily in the inner world, where meaning and depth and authenticity matter more than appearances. And in a culture that values extroversion, that rewards constant visibility and social performance, your way of being can feel like a defect. But it is not. Jung understood that introversion is not a lesser form of extroversion. It is a different orientation entirely, one that draws strength from solitude, from reflection, from the rich inner life that most people never access. When you choose to stay silent and watch, you are honoring this orientation. You are refusing to betray your own nature by forcing yourself into a mode of constant outward action that depletes you. You are trusting that the inner work you do, the clarity you cultivate, the self-respect you maintain, will speak louder than any words you could send. Silence also creates space. It allows the other person to feel your absence, to notice what it is like when you're not there, when your attention is not focused on them, when your energy is not available to soothe or reassure or fill the gaps in their own sense of self. This is not about withholding love. It is about allowing reality to speak. If he has taken you for granted, if he has assumed you will always be there no matter how he behaves, then your silence disrupts that assumption. It introduces a question. It creates a gap that he must either choose to bridge or choose to leave open. And his choice will tell you everything you need to know. You cannot control his choice. You cannot force him to see your worth, to feel what you feel, to want what you want. And this is perhaps the hardest truth to accept. We live in a culture that tells us we can manifest anything, that we can control outcomes through positive thinking or the right actions or the perfect words. But love does not work that way. Connection does not work that way. Another person's feelings, their readiness, their capacity to meet you where you are, these are not things you can control. They are mysteries, unfolding according to their own timing, shaped by forces you cannot see or manage. What you can control is yourself, your choices, your boundaries, your willingness to stay true to your own values, even when it is uncomfortable. When you stay silent, you are exercising this control. You are saying that you will not compromise your dignity, that you will not beg for scraps of attention, that you will not settle for a connection that requires you to shrink or perform or constantly prove yourself. You are choosing yourself, and that choice, that quiet assertion of your own worth, is the foundation of any healthy relationship. Jung also spoke about the unconscious, the vast realm of the psyche that operates beneath our awareness, influencing our choices and our attractions and our patterns in ways we do not fully understand. Sometimes we are drawn to people who mirror our unresolved wounds, who activate our deepest fears, who challenge us to grow in ways that are painful but necessary. When someone pulls away, when the connection becomes uncertain, it can trigger old wounds of abandonment, of not being enough, of being forgotten or replaced. And in that triggered state, we often react from the unconscious, from the wounded child within us who believes that if we just try harder, if we just say the right thing, we can finally earn the love we were denied. But staying silent is an act of consciousness. It is a refusal to react from the wound. It is a choice to pause, to observe, to allow the feelings to rise without immediately acting on them. It is a way of saying to that wounded part of yourself, I see you, I understand your fear, but I will not let you drive this decision. I will not let you convince me that my worth depends on his response. I will hold you with compassion, but I will not abandon my adult self, my grounded self, my self that knows I am whole regardless of whether he comes back. This is the work of individuation, the lifelong process Jung described as becoming who you truly are, integrating the disparate parts of yourself, learning to live from your own center rather than from the expectations and projections of others. It is not a linear path. It is not something you achieve and then you are done. It is a continuous unfolding, a deepening, a returning again and again to the question of who you are when you strip away the masks, the roles, the desperate need to be seen and validated by others. When you stay silent and watch him come back, you are engaging in this process. You are asking yourself, who am I without his attention? What do I value? What do I need? What am I willing to accept? And what am I not? You are turning inward, not as an escape, but as a return to your own ground, your own truth. And in that inward turn, you often discover that you are stronger than you thought, more whole than you believed, less dependent on external validation than the culture has taught you to be. You may notice, as you sit in this silence, that your mind tries to fill it with stories. He is with someone else. He never cared. You said something wrong. You were too much or not enough. These stories are not truth. They are the mind's attempt to make sense of uncertainty, to create a narrative that explains the discomfort. But uncertainty does not always have a clear explanation. Sometimes people pull away because they are confused, because they are afraid, because they are dealing with their own wounds and their own patterns that have nothing to do with you. Sometimes the silence is not about you at all. It is about them, about their own process, their own struggle to show up authentically. This is why watching is so important. When you stay silent, you are not just waiting. You are observing. You are paying attention to what he does, not just what he says. You are noticing whether his actions align with his words, whether he takes responsibility for his choices, whether he is capable of self-reflection and growth. You are gathering information, not in a calculating way, but in a discerning way. You are asking, is this person capable of meeting me? Is this connection nourishing or depleting? Does this relationship call me toward my best self, or does it ask me to shrink? These are questions you cannot answer when you are in constant motion, when you are chasing, when you're trying to manage the outcome. You can only answer them from a place of stillness, of groundedness, of inner clarity. And that clarity comes from silence, from stepping back, from allowing the situation to reveal itself without your interference. There's a concept in Jungian psychology called the shadow, the parts of ourselves we have disowned or rejected, the qualities we cannot accept, and so we project them onto others. Sometimes, when someone pulls away, we project our own fears onto them. We assume they're judging us, rejecting us, finding us inadequate, because those are the judgments we hold about ourselves. But what if their pulling away has nothing to do with those judgments? What if it is simply their own process, their own fear, their own inability to handle the depth of connection you offer? Not everyone can meet depth. Not everyone is comfortable with the kind of intimacy that requires vulnerability, honesty, the willingness to be seen fully. Some people are still living primarily through the persona, through the mask, and when they encounter someone who operates from a deeper place, it frightens them. It challenges them. It asks them to grow in ways they may not be ready for. And so they pull away, not because you are too much, but because they are not yet enough for themselves. Understanding this can bring a kind of peace. It allows you to stop taking their withdrawal personally, to stop seeing it as evidence of your inadequacy. It allows you to recognize that their response is about them, about their capacity, about their readiness. And while that does not remove the pain, it does shift the meaning. You are not being rejected because you are flawed. You are being met with someone's limitation, and that limitation is not yours to fix. When you stay silent, you are also protecting your energy. Relationships, especially ones that are uncertain or unstable, can be incredibly draining. The constant wondering, the analyzing, the trying to decode every message or a lack of message, the emotional labor of managing someone else's feelings while neglecting your own, all of this takes a toll. It depletes you. It pulls you away from your own center, from your own life, from the things that nourish and sustain you. Silence is a way of reclaiming that energy, of redirecting it back toward yourself, toward your own healing, your own growth, your own joy. You might find, as you practice this silence, that you begin to reconnect with parts of yourself you have forgotten. Hobbies you used to love, friends you had neglected, dreams you had set aside. The space that opens up when you stop obsessing over someone else's choices is a space you can fill with your own life, your own richness, your own depth. And this is not a distraction. It is a return. It is a coming home to yourself, to the person you are when you are not performing or pleasing or trying to earn love. This return is essential because if he does come back, you want to come back to him as a whole person, not as someone who has been waiting in suspended animation, not as someone whose life has been on hold. You want to meet him from a place of fullness, not from a place of lack. And if he does not come back, you want to continue living fully and deeply, not as someone who has been abandoned, but as someone who chose herself, who honored her own worth, who refused to settle for less than she deserves. There is a quiet dignity in this choice. It is not loud. It is not dramatic. It does not make for a good story in the conventional sense, because it lacks the chase, the grand gesture, the climactic reunion. But it is real. It is grounded. It is the kind of strength that lasts, that sustains, that does not crumble under pressure. It is the strength of knowing who you are and what you are worth, and refusing to compromise that knowledge for the fleeting comfort of someone's inconsistent attention. Jung believed that the goal of life is not happiness in the superficial sense, but individuation, the process of becoming fully yourself. This process often requires solitude, requires stepping away from the collective, from the crowd, from the expectations and judgments of others. It requires you to face yourself, to integrate your shadow, to honor your inner world, even when the outer world does not understand or validate it. When you stay silent and watch, you are engaging in this process. You are choosing the path of individuation over the path of conformity, the path of depth over the path of superficial connection. Not everyone will understand this choice. Some will see it as coldness, as pride, as game playing. They will project their own fears and their own patterns onto you because they cannot imagine a different way of being. But you do not need their understanding. You do not need their approval. You need only your own clarity, your own groundedness, your own trust in the path you have chosen. You may also notice, as you sit in this silence, that it becomes less about him and more about you. At first, the silence is filled with thoughts of him, with wondering what he is doing, whether he is thinking of you, whether he will reach out. But gradually, if you allow it, the silence shifts. It becomes a space of self-inquiry, of reflection, of deepening. You begin to ask different questions. Not what is he thinking, but what do I need? Not will he come back, but do I want him to come back? Not how can I get him to see my worth, but do I see my own worth? These questions are the ones that matter, because the truth is, his return is not the goal. Your wholeness is the goal. Your self-respect is the goal. Your ability to live authentically, to honor your own needs, to choose connections that nourish rather than deplete you, that is the goal. If his return serves that goal, if he comes back having done his own work, having recognized what he lost, having grown in his capacity to meet you, then his return is a gift. But if his return is just more of the same, more inconsistency, more ambivalence, more asking you to shrink or wait or prove yourself, then his return is not a gift. It is a test of whether you have truly learned to choose yourself. This is why the watching is so important. You are not just waiting passively. You are observing with discernment. You are paying attention to the quality of his return if it happens. Is he taking responsibility? Is he being honest about what happened? Is he showing up differently? Or is he simply returning because he misses the comfort of your attention, the ease of your availability? These distinctions matter. They tell you whether the connection has the potential to evolve or whether it will simply repeat the same painful patterns. And if he does not come back, if the silence stretches on and becomes permanent, then you have also learned something essential. You have learned that he was not capable of meeting you, that the connection was not what you hoped it was, that you were investing in a potential that did not exist. This knowledge, while painful, is also liberating. It frees you from the illusion, from the hope that was keeping you stuck, from the fantasy that if you just tried harder or waited longer, things would change. It allows you to grieve, to release, to move forward with clarity rather than confusion. Grief is a natural part of this process. When you let go of the chase, when you stop trying to control the outcome, you're also letting go of the fantasy, the story you told yourself about who he was and what the relationship could be. That loss is real, even if the relationship was not fully real. It is okay to feel sad, to feel disappointed, to feel the weight of what might have been. But do not let the grief convince you that you made the wrong choice. Choosing yourself is never the wrong choice, even when it hurts. Jung also spoke about the tension of opposites, the idea that growth happens not through choosing one side or the other, but through holding the tension between them, through allowing both to exist without collapsing into either. In this situation, the opposites are the desire to reach out and the choice to stay silent, the hope that he will return and the acceptance that he may not, the love you feel and the self-respect you must maintain. Holding this tension is not comfortable. It requires you to live in ambiguity, to tolerate not knowing, to resist the urge to resolve the discomfort through action. But it is in this tension that transformation happens. It is in this space of not knowing that you discover who you are beyond your reactions, beyond your fears, beyond your need for certainty. You discover that you can hold complexity, that you can feel multiple things at once, that you can love someone and still choose yourself, that you can hope for a particular outcome and still accept whatever comes. This is maturity. This is depth. This is the kind of inner strength that cannot be taught, only earned through the willingness to sit with discomfort and not run from it. As you practice this silence, you may also begin to notice the ways you have abandoned yourself in the past. The times you said yes when you meant no. The times you ignored your own needs to meet someone else's. The times you twisted yourself into shapes that did not fit just to keep the peace, to avoid conflict, to be loved. These patterns are often unconscious, learned early in life, strategies you develop to survive, to belong, to avoid abandonment. But they do not serve you anymore. They keep you small. They keep you stuck. They prevent you from experiencing the kind of connection you truly desire, the kind that honors your fullness, your complexity, your depth. Staying silent is a way of breaking these patterns. It is a way of saying, I will not abandon myself anymore. I will not betray my own needs, my own worth, my own truth, just to keep someone's attention. I will not participate in dynamics that diminish me. I will wait for someone who can meet me, who can see me, who can honor what I offer without me having to beg or convince or perform. This is a radical act of self-love, and it is not easy, especially if you have spent most of your life learning to prioritize others over yourself. But it is also deeply healing. Every time you choose yourself, every time you honor your own boundaries, every time you refuse to settle for less than you deserve, you are rewiring those old patterns. You are teaching yourself that your worth is inherent, not earned. You are building a foundation of self-respect that no one can take from you, that does not depend on external validation, that remains steady even when others cannot see it. This foundation is what allows you to stay silent without collapsing into anxiety or desperation. It is what allows you to watch without obsessing. It is what allows you to trust that whatever happens, you will be okay, because your okayness does not depend on his choice. It depends on your own relationship with yourself, on your own ability to hold yourself with compassion and respect and love, regardless of what anyone else does. And here is the paradox. When you reach this place, when you truly no longer need him to come back in order to feel whole, that is often when he does come back. Not always. There are no guarantees. But there is something about the energy of self-possession, of groundedness, of not needing, that is deeply attractive. It signals that you are not desperate, not grasping, not willing to accept anything just to avoid being alone. It signals that you know your worth, and that you will only accept someone who can meet you at that level. This is not a strategy. It is not something you can fake. If you stay silent as a manipulation, as a way to make him jealous or to punish him, he will feel it. The energy will be off. But if you stay silent from a genuine place of self-respect, of honoring your own needs, of trusting the process, that authenticity comes through. And if he is capable of recognizing it, if he is capable of growth, if there is something real between you, he will respond to it. He will come back not because you played hard to get, but because he genuinely missed you, because he recognized what he lost, because he is ready to show up differently. And if he does not come back, if he is not capable of that recognition, then you have lost nothing. You have gained everything. You have gained yourself. You have gained your dignity. You have gained the knowledge that you can choose yourself even when it is hard, even when you are afraid, even when every part of you wants to reach out and fix and control and make it work. You have proven to yourself that you are strong enough to sit with uncertainty, to trust the process, to honor your own worth without external validation. This is the gift of silence. It is not about him. It is about you. It is about reclaiming your power, not in a loud or aggressive way, but in a quiet, grounded way. It is about remembering that you are whole, that you are enough, that your life has meaning and richness and depth regardless of whether he is in it. It is about choosing the path of individuation, the path of becoming fully yourself, even when that path is lonely, even when it requires you to walk away from connections that do not serve your growth. Jung believed that the second half of life is about turning inward, about focusing less on external achievements and more on inner integration, on becoming who you truly are beneath the roles and the masks. This inward turn is not a retreat from life. It is a deeper engagement with life, a more authentic way of being. When you stay silent and watch, you are engaging in this inward turn. You are asking the questions that matter. You are listening to your own inner voice rather than the noise of the outer world. You are trusting that the answers you seek are not out there, in his response, but in here, in your own heart, in your own knowing. This knowing is quiet. It does not shout. It does not demand. It simply is. It is the voice that tells you when something is right and when something is off. It is the voice that knows your worth, even when no one else can see it. It is the voice that says, stay when staying serves you, and go when going is necessary. It is the voice that has been with you all along, waiting for you to listen, waiting for you to trust it more than you trust the opinions and judgments of others. When you listen to this voice, when you honor it, when you allow it to guide you, you step into your own authority. You stop looking outside yourself for permission, for validation, for proof that you are enough. You become your own source, your own ground, your own home. And from that place, relationships become something different. They are no longer a desperate search for wholeness, for completion, for the missing piece that will finally make you okay. They become a choice, a conscious decision to share your life with someone who enhances it, who honors it, who meets you in your depth rather than asking you to stay on the surface. This is what you are moving toward when you stay silent. You are moving toward this kind of relationship, this kind of connection, this kind of love. And if he is not capable of offering it, if he cannot meet you there, then his absence is not a loss. It is a clearing, a making space for something better, something truer, something that aligns with who you are becoming. You are not broken. You are not too much. You are not unlovable. You are deep, and depth requires space, requires silence, requires someone who is willing to go beneath the surface. Not everyone can do that. Not everyone is ready, and that is okay. Their readiness is not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to yourself, to your own growth, to your own path. Stay silent. Watch. Trust. Not because you're playing a game, but because you are honoring yourself. Because you know that your worth does not depend on his response. Because you are choosing the path of individuation, the path of becoming fully yourself, regardless of who stays and who goes. This is the path of depth, of authenticity, of quiet strength. It is not easy, but it is real, and it is yours.